Mic check test. Test 1, 2, mic check.
Hit that button. Is that the right button? Okay. The House Appropriations Subcommittee on General Government will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll for today's attendance?
Chair Kuhn.
Here.
Representatives Van Workum. Here. Kelly. Maddock. Here. Snyder. Here. Chair, you have a quorum.
Great. Rep. Maddock moves to approve the minutes of the October 30th, 2025 meeting. There being no objections, the minutes are approved. We're going to do some reports on work projects. We got a letter from SBO, State Budget Office, on November 14th that gave us 47 proposed work projects. So I'm going to do the report, and so I'm going to adjourn here to go at ease. I'm sorry. Get the right terminology. Thank you. We don't want to be done.
That was that quick meeting. The House Appropriations Subcommittee on General Government will come back to order. Representative Chairman Kuhn has the floor.
Okay, well, thank you, Rep. Van Workum. Thanks for attending today. Not our traditional meeting day, but dictated by the State Budget Office Work Project Notice. As you may know, the SBO has 45 days after the end of the fiscal year to provide a report of requested work projects to the legislature. This year, SBO waited until day 44, the last business day within the required notice period, and on Friday, November 14th, issued its work project request. That Friday was immediately followed by a lengthy legislative break and holidays. Under the statute, the Appropriations Committee is given 30 days after the SBO report to deny any work projects. Today is the first legislative session day since November 14, and tomorrow the Appropriations Committee may meet to consider Chair Boland's recommendations. This is the very last week within the 30-day window for appropriations to deny work project requests. The timetable set by SBO has made it much more difficult to get information and background on work projects. SBO gave us 47 work project requests within general government. I have requested information on the work project request from all of our departments and have provided each of you with all the documentation, written documentation they have provided. There's been a couple in the last day or so that have come in responses to our questions that have not been provided, but I will have that sent out to all of our committee members, okay? Also conducted Zoom meetings with all the departments during the legislative break to discuss their work project requests. And I came up with a list of proposed work project denials based on this limited view. As a subcommittee chair, I can't approve or deny any work projects, nor can our subcommittee. Only a full majority of the full Appropriations Committee could deny a work project. Chair Boland and her team are evaluating all the work projects. It's a considerable task, and as part of that task, Chair Boland asked for subcommittee chair input. And I don't know which projects Chair Boland will ask to deny, if any. As far as I know, she and her team are still working on the task, so Chair may or may not follow any of the suggestions of the subcommittee chairs, including me. Nevertheless, I wanted to provide all of you with the documentation I received over the legislative break and to give you an oral report on my recommended denials. Again, these are just my recommendations, and Chair Bolin and her team are continuing to review all the work projects submitted by SBO, making their own evaluations and recommendations. I have relied heavily on 3 reports in coming up with my recommendations. These are the February 4th, 2025 HFA report on existing work projects, the November 18 HFA report on the 47 work project requests submitted by SBO, and the December 5th, last Friday night, SBO report on the current balances of existing work projects. We've provided each of these reports to each of you. In addition, as I mentioned, we provided each of you with the written responses by our departments to questions about the new work projects. So I'll go through my recommendations on denial of work projects. Keep in mind that each of these work project requests arise from the fiscal year 2025 budget and line items that the departments did not spend. If the Appropriations Committee votes to deny any work project, the remaining line item balances from the fiscal year 2025 budget will lapse into the general fund. So, independently of whether my recommendations are on Chair Boland's list, I believe it's important for our committee to understand the concerns that I have about some work project requests. We haven't done an exhaustive study, but it appears in recent years work projects have increased significantly while lapses have decreased. So lapses in work projects are going in opposite directions. Lapses going down, work projects going up. As a committee, we need to be aware of both the lapses in work projects as we go forward. And look at next year's budget. So getting to my recommendations by department in alphabetical order, I'll start with the Attorney General. And the first item is the sexual assault and law enforcement program that seems to be run well, and they're doing a lot of stuff there, but it's way overfunded. There's a $1.5 million ongoing line item for this in the fiscal year 26 enacted budget, and the amount was adjusted to reflect the available work project. There is a $1.8 million work fund project balance that remains from fiscal year 2024. So they have the ongoing 1.5 million, they have 1.8 million in work project. That is way more than they're likely to spend because they didn't spend it last year. So my recommendation is that this request for work project be denied. The second one from AG is the Public Safety Initiative. And between the criminal investigations and criminal trials line items, this project is duplicative. In addition, the program currently has work projects balance of $888,000 that was approved in fiscal year 24, and that's greater than the amount that the department says it needs for this item. So I recommend denial on that one as well. Under legislature, I guess there's never ever oversight typically over legislature, but the National Association dues is a very small work project request, but I'm recommending it be denied because they have a fiscal year 26 $714,000 line item, which represents a 1.5% increase from fiscal year 25, which they didn't spend all. And they also have a work project that was approved during fiscal year 24, which has a significant balance in it. So they don't need the additional funding for that. In my opinion, so I think the money should lapse to the general fund. Michigan Veterans Facility Ombudsman. This has open work projects for the last 4 years with nothing spent in any of those 4 years. So, and they don't have, the position hasn't even been filled for a number of years. So my thought is, why do we need to add another work project when they have a lot of work projects already and an additional line item budget, so I would recommend denial of that work project. And the Office of Tribal Legislative Liaison, also fiscal year 25 saw only a small fraction of the line item appropriation spent. And nevertheless, in our budget for fiscal year 26, that line item got a 1.5% increase. So I don't think they need the money from a work project. It should be lapsed to the general fund. Shifting over to DTMB, the first item is the OSE Staff Development and Labor Relations Training. This line item saw nearly a $150,000 increase from fiscal year 25 last year to this year, fiscal year 26, with $116,000 appropriated for this specific purpose. In addition, it still has a large balance on a fiscal year 24 work project for the same item. So I would recommend denial of adding to the work projects on this one and have the money lapse to the general fund. Next item, DTMB, is the cybersecurity service protections. There's a $29 million line item in the enacted fiscal year 26 budget that includes cybersecurity. There's almost a $500,000 balance remaining from a work project approved for this in 2022. So I recommend that we deny, that the Appropriations Committee deny this work project request. Make It in Michigan is the next item. $50 million project. Work project was approved in fiscal year 23. Of that $50 million, $43.6 million remains. And funding from the federal counterparts, even from the department's perspective, seems very unlikely. So therefore, from my perspective, that renders the need for additional funds unnecessary as a work project. Next item was space utilization. Previous work projects were authorized for this in fiscal year 22 and 23, and both have significant work balances still on them. So I don't see the need to have this made into a work project. Obviously, they didn't spend it this past year. Resource planning and special projects. This is an item that for 4 years they've had significant. They haven't spent the money that has been authorized in the budget. They've asked for work projects each of those years, all of which are carrying forward significant amounts to the present. And the project parameters seem very unclear, so I'm recommending that one as well be denied. Going down to Treasury. Treasury has this item called Assistance for Communities and Schools in Potential Distress. And like many of these others that I am recommending denial, they had work projects approved in 21, 22, 23, 24. And they have $8.4 million in the balance forward, according to the Friday's report from SBO. So and I don't see any reason for us to add to this as a work project. So that's it for my requested denials, and who knows what will happen with those requests. But if you have any questions about work projects, happy to answer them, and as we go forward.
Representative Maddock?
Mr. Chair, what was the last item that you mentioned again? That was under,
That was Treasury. It's called Assistance for Communities and Schools in Potential Distress.
thank you very much. Thank you.
The Make It in Michigan Competitiveness Fund, that fund source is the Make It in Michigan Competitiveness Fund. Is that federal dollars that was granted to the state, or where did those dollars
They
originate?
came from the general fund, and they're an existing work project. They are to match federal funds if federal funds come.
Okay, That's a matching.
That's a matching
fund.
deal. But they have, 43 million plus already in work projects in that line item.
See no other questions? The committee will go at ease.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Rep. Van Workum, for taking the chair there. And again, if anyone has any questions or suggestions on work projects as we move forward here into next year's budget in the next couple months, don't hesitate to reach out to either Michael Knassen or myself, and we'll see what we can do on those. We do intend to continue to monitor the work projects from the different departments closely to make sure that that we're getting real progress, or it's just not something where, well, we didn't spend it, we don't want to lapse it, we'll just make it into a work project. To me, that's not a legitimate reason. So Rep. Van Workum moves to excuse absent members. There being no objections, the motion prevails by unanimous consent. There being no further business, the meeting is adjourned.